What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. We are going to take a look at yet another mainstream media interview with the new UKIP leader, Richard Braine. This time he is appearing on Nick Ferrari's LBC show. Nick follows the usual mantra taken up by the media when it comes to UKIP. You can tell Nick absolutely hates UKIP because they will talk about things the media don't want discussed. Let's check it out.
UK Independence Party holds its press conference for its new leader, Richard Braine, later today. Mr. Braine saw off challenges to win the leadership from Gerard Batten, who stood down. And Mr. Braine joins me now. What will you be saying at your press conference later today? Good morning to you.
Thanks a lot. Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Nick. What will I be saying? Well, you'll have to wait and see. But obviously, I'm going to talk about my plans for the leadership. I'm going to talk about the future of UKIP and why UKIP is still important, still has a lot of good work to do.
Those words don't seem to go together at the moment, the future of UKIP. What on earth can you possibly say?
Well, I think UKIP has a great future. I mean, people forget that UKIP bumbled along on a very small vote for a long time before producing this extraordinary revolution that has taken, has really occupied everybody for the last 3 years at least. And so we still have lots of ideas and things to push.
Why don't you share one with me?
Often it doesn't take long for people to respond. Right. If you get your policy right, people start voting for you. We saw that from about the period of, let's say, 2010.
But why don't you share one idea now?
Sorry, say again, please.
Why don't you share one of those ideas now?
Well, I mean, look, we have a manifesto that's available on UKIP's website, ukip.org, and people should read it. It's a great manifesto. It's been evolving over many years, and we talk about a lot of things that people are uncomfortable talking about. So, one of the things, for instance, that we're very strong on is immigration, because overcrowding in London and in the rest of the country is a major problem, and people are struggling to have access to healthcare, schools, housing, jobs, and there is wage compression as a result. So we've got great policies to solve a lot of those problems, and I think if people saw those policies, they would respond well.
Is this the manifesto that was in place at the recent Brecon by-election when you were beaten by the monster raving loony party?
Well, but we've always done badly in Brecon, apart from in 2015. It's obviously been one of our weakest.
To be beaten by the loony party, Mr. Braine, it doesn't get any lower, does it?
Well, I don't think that's right. If you go back and look at the early years of UKIP, we've frequently beaten by them, I think, as I understand it. But, look, parties, the popularity of parties comes and goes. We're not a major party like Tories or Labour with their, frankly, terrible track record. We're in a party that brings interesting and new ideas, revolutionary ideas in the case of the Brexit revolution. And we really pushed that and made that happen. So it shows that a small party like us can make things happen in this country, and we can have a real influence and really change politics.
And one of the things that it seems that you might want to, and I'm trying to clarify this, is that you want to stop the Quran being handed out. Is that correct?
Well, that's actually something of a misstatement by the press about what I actually said. What I actually said is this, that we've got laws against incitement to violence. And there are several verses in the Quran that do incite people to commit violence against the unbeliever. And the problem is that we see it actually happening. So, if you look at Manchester Arena, if you look at Lee Rigby or London Bridge, Westminster Bridge, SHR, what's been going on in Australia recently in the 55
are you trying to stop the Quran?
Actual Islamic attacks.
Are you trying to... No, Mr. Braine, we'll do it my way. Are you trying to stop the Quran being handed out? That's what I'm trying to get at, though.
Well, what I question is the issue of the law and whether it's... I mean, I'm not talking about changing the law necessarily, but I do ask this. We have laws against incitement, and arguably that would include handing people documents that say, you should go and do this if it's a violent act against an innocent person. And so that's why I think that we need to look very carefully into that question. Obviously, this is a controversial issue. I understand that.
Yes, let me just grab...
People hand out books in Leicester Square that tell people to go and kill their neighbours.
Right. So, would you also seek to stop the building of new mosques?
We haven't got a policy to stop the building of new mosques in our manifesto, but we do want to look at foreign funding, because it does seem that some of the mosques where, the real extremist preaching occurs are funded from abroad. And we know that, Wahhabist and Salafi, some of the worst examples of it, have been secretly filmed, as you know. If you if you've watched it, and that is being preached. So we do see extremism, pro-violent extremism preached in this country, in mosques. And again, we need to look very, very carefully at whether it's right to allow this to happen when, on the face of it, that's already illegal.
Is Tommy Robinson involved in UKIP currently?
No.
Would you seek to have him involved in UKIP?
No.
Right, because your predecessor, and it is difficult keeping up with the people who lead UKIP, there's so many of you, but your predecessor seemed to have a position where he wanted to welcome Tommy Robinson on board.
Well, to be honest, he, as far as I'm concerned, I speak to him, obviously, and see him, and he seems to be less obsessed by Tommy Robinson than the press. So, I mean, you've just brought him up. It's normally the press that brings him up in any interviews that I do, and most UKIP people, I think, find that other people bring that subject up a lot. They use it as some kind of stick to beat us with.
No, I'm not.
The reality is that last summer in 2018, Robinson was wrongly imprisoned, and we know that because they actually released him, they released him because he was wrongly imprisoned. Now he's in prison at the moment. I know,
yes, he's back in. He happens to be back behind bars.
This is not a big issue. We've got rules, unlike the Tories and Labour Party. We've got rules to stop people from extreme.
But what is your view of
coming into the party?
What is your view of Mr. Robinson?
I think he's done an extraordinarily courageous thing to bring attention to a vast number of crimes occurring in this country, where the police were told, apparently, to look the other way, while these crimes went ahead. And I think he's done
and in so doing, he's broken the law. So you condone breaking the law?
Well, in bringing attention to these rape gangs that were allowed to just carry on regardless, he wasn't breaking the law.
Well, he was.
When he went on Newsnight in 2011 to talk about this,
no, but
long before the J report, he wasn't breaking the law.
Subsequently, by filming people when he was ordered not to, he broke the law. You support that, do you?
No, I didn't say that.
No, but you support what he's doing. So you don't support when he breaks the law?
No, of course not.
Right, OK. Just to clarify, one other aspect is you seem to have trouble with the name of the London mayor.
Well, that's a story that's been... I made a spelling mistake, and that's been turned into a great big, story. I mean,
well, it's not really, is it? Because the mayor is, of course...
I've got better things to talk about.
I'll be the judge of that, thank you.
The discussion of spelling mistakes.
Well, I'll be the judge of that. The London mayor is, of course, Sadiq Khan, but you appear to call him on Twitter Siddiq Khan after one of the London bombers responsible, of course, for the London terror attack, and you say, apologies, I often confuse him with the leader of the 7/7 bombers.
Well, I was talking about the spelling, obviously.
So you're going to lead a political party and you can't tell the difference...
Confused.
No, you're the leader of a political party and you can't tell the difference between an elected mayor and a terrorist.
I was actually referring to the spelling. If you look at the context of that tweet, it's actually referring to the spelling.
But how often do you do it?
That's why I think we're wasting the time of your listeners.
No, I'll be the judge of that, Mr. Braine. I'll judge that, thank you. How often do you confuse the two?
I think your listeners should judge.
Yeah, we're fine, don't worry. I'm prepared to run the risk. How often do you confuse the two?
Well, I don't know. The point
well,
is...
I'm asking, these are your words. I often confuse...
When you write the word Sadiq...
I often confuse him, the mayor, with the leader of the... So that's my final question. How often do you confuse... Because you're seeking to lead a political party in this country, and you, quotes, often confuse the elected mayor of London with a terrorist. And I'm asking how often you make this mistake.
Well, for the third time, I'm going to say to you, it's a spelling confusion, and I think it's a waste of time to go on about this. Can't we talk about more interesting things?
No, I'm fascinated by how you get that wrong. Often.
Well, Sadiq and Sadiq are easy to confuse.
But you get it wrong oftentimes.
Well, I mean, it's not uncommon when you have two spellings of a name to have to think up which...
But you're doing it...
before you write it.
No, but you're doing
it, you have to think, hang on, which way is it spelled this time?
So this is never intentional?
Sorry, say again?
This is never intentional?
What, a spelling mistake?
Yeah, you've never do it deliberately?
Not really, no.
Not really?
I try, I do my best to spell. Are you really...
I'm just interested
on my spelling. I mean, it's an extraordinary.
No,
interview.
I'm just interested if you're doing it.
Better?
I'm doing it if you're doing it deliberately. You're deliberately trying to link an elected official of London with a terrorist. Whether you do it deliberately to cause mischief.
But that's your view. But
no, but I'm asking.
Important things to talk about.
I'm asking you.
We've got a lot of issues. To deal with politically in this country, and this is a waste of time.
No, I'm asking you, Mr. Braine. Do you do it deliberately?
Sorry, do I do what deliberately?
Confuse the spelling
words in general.
No. As you say, you often confuse him, Mayor Khan, with the leader of the 7-7 bombers. So you do it deliberately.
Well, but as you know, that was in the context of having simply spelt Sadiq the wrong way. And, of course, there's several ways of spelling Sadiq. And every time you write the name Sadiq, you have to try to remember which spelling it is. And there are many other names like that where you have to remember multiple different spellings.
Why would anybody vote UKIP when they could vote Brexit? Party.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, UKIP is a party that has members who actually vote, who can choose their leader, and who choose the chairman, the branch chairman, and so forth. And UKIP's got a published manifesto. We've been working so hard for Brexit for 27 years, and we really brought about this fantastic political revolution.
No, but why would you not vote Brexit? So, why wouldn't listeners who are Brexit minded, and the Brexit Party, I think even you would have to agree, has a fair amount of wind in its sails? Why wouldn't they now vote the Brexit Party rather than UKIP?
Well, as I've just explained, we have a proper manifesto, but there are lots of other reasons. I mean, the Brexit Party is quite possibly going to be swallowed up by the Tory Party. It seems like it's almost a Tory life raft. And after Brexit is delivered, if it is, on October the 31st, then I have to question what the purpose of the Brexit Party will be after that. So it's sort of a one-issue, fly-by-night, a sort of, firework of a party, and that's great. And if Brexit's delivered, that's great. But UKIP will continue fighting for British independence. And after Brexit, we're going to have to keep fighting, because I could be quite sure that Sir Nick Clegg and Gideon Osborne and all of the Remainiacs will continue to campaign to take us back into this disastrous totalitarian Soviet-style empire. So we're going to have to keep fighting for it for years, I'm sure of it.
Richard Braine is the newly elected leader of UKIP. You hold your first press conference later today. Thank you for appearing here on LBC, where it's 9:40.
Now, when I started this video, I actually intended to go over what was said in great detail, but the whole interview was pretty much the same attempted smear against UKIP as the talk radio one I covered yesterday, so I will gloss over it briefly and move on to another video. As you heard, the entire interview consists of Nick taking points out of context and completely misrepresenting them, followed by, of course, the usual Tommy Robinson smear campaign that once again Richard quickly fucking destroys. It would seem he actually enjoys rebutting the bullshit relating to Tommy Robinson, because it helps bring wider knowledge of what he is actually doing rather than the bullshit the media feeds people. Richard defending Tommy Robinson for what he has done to protect children is making the media look like a complete bunch of tosspots, because the media should be praising him for it, but instead they smear Tommy constantly and seem to hate anyone who brings up what Tommy has done to help people, because the scum who are involved in these heinous crimes are a protected class apparently. I don't care what race or religion you are, and I expect Tommy feels the same. If people are convicted of committing these terrible crimes, they should be held to account by the courts and the media, like the 12 Israeli kids who got accused of gang raping that teenage girl. The BBC and other media quickly reported what religion they followed, didn't they? Even though the story was a complete fabrication, because the young girl had been a bit cavalier with her snatch and let a bunch of guys pass her around like a fucking joint. That is exactly the sort of bias I was talking about, and Richard constantly points out. That's the sort of bias I was talking about. What Tommy does in regards to bringing attention to these crimes is something the media should praise him for, not cover it up. The final part of that interview consists of Nick badgering Richard over a fucking spelling mistake. Well, Nick, you slimy fuck pig, I would spell and pronounce his name Sadiq cunt, and swiftly tell you to fuck off when you tried to smear me for it, because I wouldn't give two shits, and neither does Richard. You would have noticed that Nick Ferrari went full James O'Brien in this interview, as is the common theme with Richard Braine's interviews these days. It's the reason I have not bothered going over it in any great detail, because I would be reciting nearly word for word what I'd already said in the talk radio video I made. Although Nick is not quite as bad as the talk radio host was the other day, this is still beneath Nick to take part in these pointless smear campaigns. Well, I'm going to end the video there, guys. Like I said, Nick follows talk radio host and every other interview in the last few days with non-stop smear attempts throughout the interview. I thought maybe fuck pig Nick would ride above the smears, but he jumped straight in there, no fucks given, and lowered himself to the BBC's standard. Now let me know what you guys think about this attempted smear job down in the comments section below. Remember to leave a like, subscribe and share this video as it helps the channel a lot, and I will see you all in the next one.